Hello, I'm Ray with another strange tale, which all began with a phone call one evening. A pleasant female voice said, "Hello, Ray, it's Jenny." So I said, "Jenny who? I don't know any Jenny. Who are you?" "Don't you remember me?" "No, I don't. I don't remember you. Give me a clue." "Oh, we knew each other ages ago. Surely you remember me. I'm Jenny." I said, "Look, I'm sorry, I don't know. I was quite busy at the time. I was about to go out." "Where did we meet?" I said. "Give me a clue. Where did we meet? When was this?" "Oh, it was a while ago," she said. "But surely you remember me, Jenny." I was getting a little bit frustrated. "No, sorry, I don't know you." She said, "Do you know the Dog and Duck pub?" I said, "Yes, I know the place in town. Is that where we met?" No, she said, "but let's go there tomorrow night. I'll be there at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. As soon as you see me, you'll remember me." And that was the end of the phone call. I didn't give it much thought after that. I went out. Following day I was working. Again, I didn't give it much thought until it got to about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I began to wonder, should I go to the pub just out of curiosity? Mind you, curiosity killed the cat, as they say. But I was intrigued. I wanted to see who this Jenny was. So I got ready, went to the pub, got there a little bit early, and I grabbed a newspaper from the bar. Do you remember in the old days they sometimes had a pile of newspapers on the bar? So I got myself a drink and sat in the corner. I hid behind this newspaper, so no one coming in could see me. I felt like a spy. I should have had a false beard and sunglasses and a trilby hat. Just before 7, a girl walked in. Now, there weren't that many people in the pub, perhaps 7 or 8 in the pub. It was quite early for people going out for the evening. She went to the bar. She was looking round. I'm hiding behind my newspaper. She'd have got herself a drink, and I heard her say to the chap behind the bar, "Do you know if Ray is in tonight?" And he said, "Sorry, I don't know." Now, it wasn't a pub that I used to go to, so he didn't know me. I'm still hiding behind the newspaper as she's looking round, so I thought, well, I best lower the paper in case it is someone genuine that I know, and she will recognise me. So I lowered the paper. She looked at me, didn't take much notice, looked round the bar. Whenever the door opened and someone came in, she looked. Then she came over to me. "Ray," she said, "I'm Jenny. Do you remember me now?" This was obviously some kind of mistake or a setup. That's what was in my mind, because she didn't recognise me. She asked the barman whether Ray was in. She looked at me 3 or 4 times and then decided that there's a possibility that I was Ray. So in a dark brown voice, I said, "Sorry, you got the wrong chap. I'm Dave." Sorry about that. I'm not very good at different voices. "I'm Dave." "Oh," she said, "OK, sorry." And she was about to walk off. So I wanted to keep her there. I said, "What is it, a blind date?" I won't do the deep voice all the time. I said, "What is it, a blind date?" "Yes, well, no, well, it's sort of." So I laughed and said, "Well, which is it? Yes, no, or sort of? What sort of?" And she said, "Oh, I've arranged to meet this chap, and I don't think he's going to turn up." So I said, "Look, why don't you sit down and join me while you're waiting? You never know, he might just be late." She sat down opposite me at the table and sipped her drink. She was a very good-looking young lady. Long dark hair, dark eyes, rather like gypsy eyes, you know, black, deep, dark, or Spanish eyes, really nice. So I asked her about this blind date, this chap that she's supposed to be meeting. How did they meet? How was it set up? What was going on? She didn't want to say too much at first, but then she opened up. She said Ray was her friend's husband. Now, she'd known this friend since school, and she'd always looked out for her, always looked after her, watching out for her, vetting her boyfriends. So I said, "Hang on," I interrupted her. "How come, if this is your friend's husband, how come you don't know him? You don't recognise him?" Then she explained that they'd been at school together, her and her friend Rosalind, that was the name of her friend. They'd been at school together. They'd lost touch over the years and happened to bump into each other in town. That's fair enough. And Rosalind was saying that she thought her husband, Ray, was cheating on her. He was two-timing her. He was seeing someone else on the side. So they'd hatched this plan where Jenny would phone the husband, Ray, arranged to meet him and come on strong and test his fidelity, basically. Now, that was all fair enough. Well, it was a bit underhand. But how on earth had she got my phone number? OK, perhaps she'd misdialed. Perhaps she'd got one of the digits wrong as she'd written it down. But then it was the name Ray. That was correct. I didn't want to get dragged into anything, so I kept up my false identity of Dave with a deep voice. I'm Dave. And I let her talk. I didn't interrupt her. But I did say at one stage, isn't that interfering in their marriage? It's a bit underhand, isn't it? Secretly arranging to try and chat up her husband to test his fidelity. Oh, she said, I've always looked out for Rosalind. I've always looked out for her. And I said, well, you vetted her boyfriends in the past. Oh, yes, when we were at school and when we left school, I vetted her boyfriends because she was always worried. Rosalind was always thinking that her boyfriends were cheating on her, and now she thinks her husband is cheating on her. And I said, well, she obviously doesn't trust people. She must be insecure. Oh, no, she said, Rosalind always said to me, I'm not untrusting, I'm just questioning. Well, in my mind, that was untrusting and insecure if she was always questioning her boyfriend, always suspicious. There was something very wrong with her. Perhaps something had happened in her childhood. But in my mind, again, that was all beside the point. How did this Jenny get my phone number and my name correct? How did this happen? How did it come about? There's coincidence with perhaps misdialing a number or writing it down incorrectly. But is that coincidence as well, even knowing my name? There was something going on. I just couldn't work out what it was. I didn't know Jenny. I'd never heard of a Rosalind. That was an unusual name. I'd never known anyone by that name. So what on earth was going on? We chatted for a while longer. I couldn't really get any more information out of her. I suppose there wasn't much more to say. She told me that it was a set-up to test this chap's infidelity. I asked her about the time she'd phoned Ray, this woman's husband. I said, where did you get the number from? And she said, well, I got it from Rosalind, obviously. And I felt a bit silly. I said, oh, yes, of course, sorry. So Rosalind gave you the number. And she said, we made sure that I'd phoned at a time when Rosalind was out, so her husband was bound to answer the phone, which he did. I asked her what he said on the phone. Oh, he just denied knowing all knowledge of me. And I said, well, surely when you met this Ray, if you had met him, he would have said, well, who are you? The plan was, according to her, that she was going to make out it was all a mistake. She'd got the wrong person, mistaken identity, but then start chatting him up to test his fidelity or infidelity, as the case may be. After about half an hour, she stood up and said, well, he's obviously not going to arrive, so that's the end of that. I must admit that I was somewhat disappointed that she hadn't chatted me up or come on strong. I was a single red-blooded male, but obviously not her type. As time passed, I forgot about the incident, could never work it out. The phone number, my name, all remained a mystery. But I just forgot about it. Until about 6 months later, I met a girl and we started going out together. Her name was Rosalind. Now, there's another coincidence. As I said earlier, quite an uncommon name, Rosalind. She was a lovely girl. We got on well together. After 2 or 3 weeks of going out with her, I realised that this probably wouldn't work because she was always suspicious. Oh, I didn't see you last night. Where did you go? As I told you, I was meeting some friends. Are you sure? Yes, Rosalind, I was out with friends. This became more and more of a problem. It was driving a wedge between us. Suspicious all the time. I had it out with her in the end. I said, look, we can't go on with your suspicion like this. I said, you obviously don't trust me. Oh, I'm not untrusting, she said. I'm just questioning. Just questioning. That's exactly the phrase Jenny had used when she was talking about Rosalind. Rosalind was always saying, I'm not untrusting, I'm just questioning. This was more than a coincidence now. Jenny, my phone number, unquestioning, Rosalind. The whole thing was completely weird. It couldn't be a setup. Where was Jenny? This was 6 months later. What was going on? There was something else about Rosalind that I found rather odd. She kept on about marriage. I want to get married. I want to have children. Whenever I met her, oh, I want to get married. Do you think we'll get married one day, Ray? Do you think we'll ever get married? On and on about it. The suspicion, the marriage, want to have children. Do you think we'll get married? I'd almost got to the stage where I was going to end the relationship. It was getting too heavy. It was weird. The whole thing worried me, to be honest. I took the opportunity of her talking about marriage to bring her round to surnames. Now, I didn't know her surname. I hadn't asked her surname, hadn't been going out with her for long. So I said, "What's your surname?" "Johnson," she said. "Rosalind Johnson." I thought back to Jenny's words. She was at school with Rosalind Johnson. Jenny had mentioned that name. This was the same Rosalind. It had to be. But Rosalind was married to Ray. I was drowning in confusion. I really didn't know what to think or what to say or what to do. I was literally drowning in a sea of confusion. As the days passed, she was becoming more and more suspicious, wary of me, untrusting. "Where have you been? What were you doing at the weekend? You didn't see me. Where did you go? What were you doing? Were you seeing someone else?" It really did get to the point where I had to end the relationship. As the days passed, I did see her now and then, and she kept on repeating those words. "I'm not untrusting, I'm just questioning." We were sitting in a pub. I had decided to end it, and I said to her, "Do you remember Jenny from school?" "Oh, Jenny who?" she said. "I knew several Jennys from school." "Jenny who?" I said, "I don't know her surname." She had dark eyes. She looked sort of Mediterranean, Spanish, maybe gypsy. "Oh, Jenny," she said. "She was so lovely, always looking out for me, always looking after me. She was lovely." So I said, "When did you last see her?" I wanted to get this all out in the open now. I was going to tell her about the phone call, phoning me, all this business about Ray and Rosalind being married. So I said, "Come on, Rosalind, when did you last see her?" 2 years ago, she said. 2 years ago it was. Her eyes saddened, and she looked down, and a tear rolled down her cheek. 2 years ago it was, just a couple of days before she was killed in that horrendous road accident. Rosalind and I split up, but I was left with so many unanswered questions in my mind. I should have asked Jenny what Rosalind's married surname was. I should have asked her that. Had it been my surname, I don't know what I would have thought. I don't know what to think now when I look back on this. What was it all about? Who was the Jenny I saw in the pub? Who was the Jenny I chatted to? Was that the ghost of Jenny who had been killed in a road accident? So many unanswered questions that will never be answered.